It is the third year of marriage to my childhood sweetheart. I came across a post he had written in the past. In the post, he described being forced to separate from the person he loved and had no choice but to marry the childhood friend next door. And I just happened to be the childhood friend in this story, a story of being where obstacles stand between the male and female leads. The farce unfolded when I went to the company to find Joshua. The moment the elevator doors opened, shouts mixed with the sounds of punches and kicks erupted. It was Joshua's mother's voice. "Joshua is already married. Why are you coming back? Your mother has already taken Joshua's father. Are you going to come back and take my son? You shameless woman?" This is the first time I have seen In Song, who has always been refined and dignified, act so hysterically, and Joshua is tightly protecting the person in his arms as if he were guarding some rare treasure. Chapter 1. I opened my mouth to call out to him. Joe suddenly pushed by someone. My arm hit the corner of the table, and the words I had not finished turned into a cry of pain. Joshua looked at me quickly, pushing away the person in his arms as if he intended to come over and help me. But in the next moment I saw In Song casually grab a pot of succulents. He turned around without hesitation, once again shielding the girl. The flower pot landed squarely on his head. The instant blood fell from Joshua's head, the surrounding sounds instantly erupted into chaos. I heard Aunt Song call his name with concern. Joshua, the girl in his arms, spoke in a sobbing voice. "Are you okay?" Joshua let out a sigh, his voice soft and light. "I'm glad you're okay." The farce concluded with Joshua being knocked unconscious and taken to the hospital. Before leaving, he held my hand and finally whispered. Sarah, Aunt Song, was beside me, saying she would explain at home, and urged me to go to the hospital to see Joshua first. It was already evening when I arrived. Joshua's friend Daniel was standing in front of the hospital room door. The moment he saw me, he was about to speak, but I tightly gripped his wrist. He winced and fell. The door to the ward was slightly ajar. I heard it. A woman's voice inside was being coy. "You should take a bite. I learned this just for you." Joshua lowered his gaze and sighed softly. "Lena, you don't have to." Before he could finish his sentence, the young girl's eyes were already glistening with tears. She was endearing. Joshua closed his mouth and obediently swallowed the porridge she had stirred up. I did not miss the fleeting pain that crossed his face. He had been scalded. Lena did not seem like someone who would take care of others. Daniel pulled at the hem of my clothes with his other hand, his brows and eyes drooping. I released the hand I had been gripping, and his wrist was already red all over. "I'm sorry, it's all right. Sister-in-law is Joshua's." I know he was taken aback, still wanting to say something, but the sounds in the ward suddenly grew louder. "It seems Selena was crying because I can't stop worrying about you. You got hurt for my sake. Do I not even have the right to care about you?" Joshua, we clearly loved each other so much. There was a rustling sound of fabric in the room. It seemed Joshua had embraced her. The sounds in the hospital room were once again hushed, like whispers exchanged between lovers. Sister-in-law Daniel called my name again, his voice slightly trembling. "Please stop crying." As I touched my cheek, tears streamed down in large drops. How embarrassing. I lowered my head, concealing my teary, filled-outed eyes. "I'm leaving now. I had a whirlwind marriage with Joshua 3 years ago. At that time, I had just completed my studies and returned home, and my parents hosted a welcome banquet. Joshua came to pick me up. The instrumental music playing in the car did nothing to alleviate the awkwardness of our 3 years apart. There is also the anxiety of being alone in a room with someone I have secretly loved for many years on the way. Our conversation was somewhat disjointed just as we were about to get off. The seat belt suddenly wouldn't unbuckle. I was in a flurry. Joshua let out a laugh and leaned over to unbuckle it for me. A faint scent of sandalwood lingered at the tip of my nose. My body had stiffened significantly when Joshua looked up and saw my expression. He raised his hand and ruffled my hair. "It's been years since we last met. Why are you so distant? Didn't you say when we were children that you wanted to marry me?" Joshua rarely made such jokes. I blushed to the point of nearly bursting. My heart felt as if it were about to leap out of my chest. This sense of unreality persisted throughout the banquet. He confessed his feelings to me in front of both sets of parents, holding flowers beneath the intricate and dazzling lights. The youthful eyes I had cherished for over a decade sparkled with a gentle smile at the corners. "I finally waited for you to return." Sarah, Chapter 2. Countless dreams I had during my youth, and just like that it became a reality. At that moment I thought to myself, I must be the happiest person in the world. Life after marriage can indeed be sweet. Joshua is exceptionally caring. brown sugar water during my menstrual period when I am unwell, unwavering companionship and meticulous attention in daily life. I only thought about how well he treated me. I also wanted to treat him even better. It was only later that I discovered all of this was his good temper gradually cultivated for Selena. If it hadn't been for a friend sharing that post with me, I might have remained in the dark for a lifetime. I have fallen in love with my father's mistress's daughter. What should I do? I know I shouldn't, but I can't help the flutter in my heart. She is incredibly cute, like a child, always cuddling me and saying she wants to be with me for a lifetime. My mother discovered our relationship, and she does not approve of us being together. I am with her, but my mother is threatening to commit suicide, forcing us to break up. I don't want to hurt my mother, but I also don't want to make Elena unhappy. Are you out of your mind? Poster: How heartbroken must your mother be? I support the poster: Why should love lead to separation? My mother is pushing me too hard. She held a knife and asked me whether I wanted Elena or her. In that moment, I suddenly realized that my mother seemed to have aged significantly. I cannot let my mother down. What about Elena? Didn't you say you wanted to be with her for a lifetime? Please don't let Mom be sad anymore. I broke up with Elena. My mother is still worried. She urges me to get married soon. The neighbor's girl, who is my childhood friend, is returning from studying abroad. Her mother often says that she really likes me. My mother said I should get married soon. I proposed to my childhood sweetheart. What are you doing, Op? You have one more person to apologize to, Op Elena. What should you do? The person you owe the most to is her. Don't be, sob, sob, sob. This post ultimately concludes with the blogger's answer to a question. He said he got married today. From now on, he will be someone else's husband. Someone asked him, "What about Elena? Do you still love her?" He replied, "Love." The date of that response was July 14th, XX22 at 10:15 a.m. That day was my wedding with Joshua. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I sat in the room adorned in a beautiful wedding dress, my makeup flawless. My dear friend stood by the door waiting for the groom to arrive. In that moment, I found myself reflecting. I was about to marry the person I had loved for 10 years. How wonderful it was that day. Joshua did not return until very late. By the time I finished reading the post, tears had already streamed down my face. The air in the room seemed to suddenly grow very thin. It left me struggling to breathe. I want to get some fresh air in the garden downstairs. The shadows of the trees sway gently. The figure in the distance is strikingly familiar. Joshua stands beneath the street light while Selena looks up and speaks to him, the two standing very close together. "Lena, I can't continue like this. I am already married. She is a wonderful person. I cannot betray her trust." The dim yellow light of the street lamp casts a soft glow on Selena's face, gently softening her features. She appears on the verge of tears, yet she feigns strength, holding back her tears. "I know I can't forget you, which is why I want to return home. It is already wonderful to work at your company and see you every day. I shouldn't be greedy. Joshua, I will control myself." The last sentence is so chaotic that it lacks any tone. Selena, at the moment the tears fell, I could see clearly the heart-aching Joshua's eyes before he even realized it. He had already embraced Selena to comfort her. So familiar because that's when I cry. He had also held me like this several times, gently wiping away my tears and soothing me after every sadness. I would always receive gifts from Joshua like a child. I always say I won't need it next time. He would only hold me and smile gently. "As long as I can make Sarah happy, I will do anything." The wind howled in my ears, yet I could clearly hear the sound of my heart shattering. Chapter 3. That day I hated couldn't rush over to confront Joshua to the point of collapsing and crying uncontrollably. Then I calmly chose another path to fulfill their love. Where in this world is there such a good thing after leaving the hospital? I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to my parents' house. Mom hesitated for a moment when she opened the door, then smiled and asked, "Why have you suddenly returned?" I forced a smile and replied, "I suddenly missed all of you." Mom glanced behind me and inquired, "Joshua, isn't he coming with you?" "He's in the hospital." "In the hospital? What happened?" He bumped his head, and the doctor said it's nothing serious. I omitted the part about Aunt Song. "Why aren't you going to keep him company?" Mom smiled slyly. She has always been open-minded. She clearly recognizes that I like Joshua, but pretends not to know, subtly promoting me in front of Joshua. "Sarah, after secretly loving you for so many years, I have finally realized my wish. You must hold on to it tightly." "That's not true. That's not realizing my wish. I only just found out as well. The luck I thought I had is merely Joshua's settling forth the fact that he cannot marry the one he loves. I have liked Joshua since childhood. My parents are always very busy. When Joshua came home from school and saw me waiting for my parents at the door, he would take me back with him. He would help me with my homework or accompany me to watch anime at day. My parents did not return until late at night. I had fallen asleep in Joshua's room while reading a comic, and when I awoke the thunder was roaring outside and lightning was splitting the sky. I had a nightmare and was startled awake by the thunder. I cried out, desperate to find my parents. Joshua rushed in from the next room, having lost one of his slippers in the process. Sarah, my face was smeared with tears and snot, and Joshua couldn't help but laugh out loud. He took a wet wipe to help clean my face, comforting me as he wiped. It's all right, it's all right. It was just a dream. The more he comforted me, the more my tears flowed. Eventually I cried myself out and fell into a hazy sleep. I was still holding onto Joshua's hand, refusing to let go. I only remember him standing by the bed, saying he would stay with me. Will you always be by my side? I will. Will you always, always, always be by my side? I will. In truth, I already knew that casual words are not to be trusted. But if emotions could be controlled, I wouldn't have loved him for so many years like a moth drawn to a flame. I didn't visit the hospital to see Joshua again. When he inquired about it, I simply said I had returned to my parents' house. Joshua, the injury on his head is not serious. He will be discharged from the hospital in a few days. That day to be New Year's Day, he drove to pick me up for dinner at home. Standing at the door like a jade bamboo, he smiled when he saw me, gentle, just as he was before. Sarah, you look beautiful today. Joshua never hesitates to shower me with compliments. In the past I felt embarrassed, but after hearing it more often I grew increasingly confident. And thus I found myself liking him more. I lowered my gaze to avoid his eyes. Let's go do. Taken aback, I politely bid farewell to my parents. Once Aunt Song's emotions settled, she remained the same gentle elder. She was reluctant to discuss the events of that day, and I feigned forgetfulness. She was delighted to see me grasping my hand. Sarah, I bought you some necklaces and bracelets. Come and try them on. Let those two take care of the kitchen. Joshua helped me hang my coat on the rack and smiled at me. You stay with Mom. The jewelry Aunt Song purchased sparkled brilliantly, dazzling under the light. She helped me try on each piece, praising me for every one. It fits perfectly. By the time I finished trying on the last piece, dinner was ready. The dining table was filled with warmth and joy, yet it felt as if it were coated in a layer of oil. Everyone seemed to be hiding something the moment the door was knocked on. I moved faster than Joshua and went to open the door. The unexpected guest standing outside the door was Selena. Selena seemed to be in a hurry with beads of sweat on her forehead. In my moment of shock, Joshua had already approached Sarah. Joshua. The instant Selena saw Joshua behind me, tears began to fall. Where have you been? You didn't even inform me when you were discharged. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I turned to Joshua. He maintained a facade of calm and cleared his throat. Joshua? I looked at him. Who is she? Joshua remained silent. Selena pushed me aside and hurried towards him. The in-laws at the dining table also noticed Selena. I saw Aunt Song's expression change instantly. Joshua's father, who was sitting next to her, suddenly grasped her shoulder. This is my friend's daughter. I used to be good friends with Joshua, is that so? I chuckled softly. Joshua and I have been childhood friends for over 10 years. I haven't seen her before. You met her during those years you were abroad? I chuckled again, choosing not to expose his lie. Since you're here, let's eat together, Joshua's father said as he added another bowl of rice and a chair for Selena. It was meant to be a day of family reunion, yet an outsider inexplicably intruded. Selena is sitting next to Joshua in front of Aunt Song. She kept serving him food, her demeanor affectionate, just as she was about to place another chopstick of mushrooms into Joshua's bowl. I intervened. He doesn't like this. I looked at Selena, my expression calm. I also took away the carrots she had originally intended for Joshua. He is allergic to carrots. Selena's smile suddenly froze. The atmosphere instantly became tense. It's all right, Joshua suddenly spoke up, breaking the awkward atmosphere as if to demonstrate that he truly did not care. He even picked up a piece of boiled shrimp for Selena. It was mentioned in that post Elena's favorite dish. Selena's embarrassment vanished, and instead she became cheerful. Do you still remember what I liked the most? Joshua seemed to suddenly realize something, and also picked up a piece for me. Sarah, you should try this, it's delicious, but I don't like to eat that. I enjoy spicy salt. I like braised dishes, and I love barbecues. I particularly dislike poached dishes. I watched Selena dip the shrimp in sauce and take a bite, her face filled with happiness. Suddenly I realized that those who are favored are always fearless, just like Joshua is towards Selena, just like I am towards Joshua. The food in my mouth suddenly became hard to swallow, and I lost my appetite for the other dishes as well. I put down my chopsticks and said I have other matters to attend to tonight, so I'll leave first. Where are you going? Do you want me to give you a ride? Joshua asked. I looked at him, but out of the corner of my eye I noticed Selena's hand slowly covering his. No thank you. I stood up and left without a word chapter, for I made a phone call inviting some friends out for drinks. Halfway through, my vision blurred from the alcohol. Ava propped her chin on her hand and asked me what's wrong. Have you been facing any unhappy situations lately? I remained silent, pouring myself drink after drink. Work is going well, my complexion is fair and beautiful, my husband is the one I've secretly loved for many years, and life is harmonious. Sarah, with your qualities. If not a winner in life, at least you are favored by fate. What other troubles could there possibly be? I couldn't bring myself to say it. Ava didn't press me further, she simply kept me company while I drank away my sorrows. I threw up twice while hugging the toilet in the bathroom, completely drunk and out of my mind. The oblivious Ava called Joshua's phone when Joshua came to the bar to pick me up. I stood like a statue under the lamp posts at the entrance, but the moment I saw him, tears began to fall. Joshua was taken aback and pulled a tissue from his pocket when he wiped my tears. I didn't pull away, I simply stared at him blankly. You resemble someone I have feelings for? Joshua smiled and replied, Oh really? What is the name of the person you like, Joshua? He suddenly broke into a smile like a night-blooming cereus unfurling its petals at midnight. I gazed at him, feeling lightheaded. The urge to confide was stronger than ever. Do you know I've had feelings for him for a long time? An incredibly long time? I just don't have the courage to tell him how long is a long time. What year is it? This year, Joshua reported a figure I counted on my fingers, thought and thought again, calculating and recalculated, and after a long time I finally figured it out. It's been 10 years. The overhead light shone down, illuminating Joshua's disheveled hair, making it appear almost transparent. That beautiful face was left in shock. Don't you believe me? He shook his head. I was so frustrated that I took my phone to access my private album. The effects of the alcohol were still lingering. I mistyped several letters, stumbling as I clicked through, and the issue was that it had been set several years ago. Who is the person I like? The foolish days of my youth? I typed in 2 letters. Joshua's still youthful face appeared before us. Look at this, I selected a photo. This is what I found on the school's official website. In the photo it's Joshua captured during the final sprint of the long-distance race. I enlarged the photo and found my squeezed self in the crowd. He went to participate in the long-distance race, and I wanted to bring him water, but there were too many people around I couldn't squeeze in, and in the end I didn't deliver the water. I only saw him receiving water from another girl. That moment was indeed quite sorrowful. Fortunately, I later came across this photo while browsing the official website. Although the water was not delivered, we were still in the same frame. I smiled, remembering how I had clutched that bottle of water all day like a fool. It was like joyfully purchasing my favorite cake, only to discover it had been smashed when I got home. I felt lost all day, but the moment I saw this photo on the official website, I was completely revitalized. At least I was captured in the moment he received the award, and this one too. I found this in my mother's photo album when I was 10 years old. Joshua came to celebrate my birthday. The 2 of them held hands and performed for the adults. Joshua wore a little suit, and I wore a beautiful puffy dress. The 2 of them stood together clearly. A couple later, I used this photo as my background on social media. My friends all said I was so cute when I was little. I wonder what would happen if one day he saw it. Should I lie and say it's because this photo is really cute, or should I be honest, because I want you to realize that I have feelings for you? But he never did. He has never noticed. 10 years is an incredibly long time. These trivial little matters that I have remembered for so long remain vividly clear. There is so much to express. In the end, my mouth is dry and my tongue feels parched. I still cannot finish recounting my 10 years of unrequited love. When it comes to the conclusion, the person in front of me suddenly pulls me into an embrace. Joshua's embrace is warm, and through my clothes it conveys not only body heat, but also his racing heartbeat and unstable emotions. He held me very slightly, yet my hands trembled slightly. I love you. The man's breath brushed against my ear, warm and faintly nasal. Sarah, I love you too. I was cradled in Joshua's arms. The tears on my face had long since dried. As the cold wind blew, it awakened much of my intoxication. I looked up at the blinding white light above. It felt like a long, long time. Finally I spoke softly. Liar Joshua, You Great Liar Chapter 5. When I woke up, my head was pounding. Joshua heard a noise and appeared at the bed. Sarah, I made you hangover soup. I rubbed my temples and nodded in response when I sat down at the dining table after washing up. Breakfast and hangover soup were already laid out. I gulped down the soup and then noticed a piece of candy he had placed beside it. Sarah Joshua came down from upstairs, smiling at me with a tie in hand. I was momentarily stunned, then took it and helped him tie it. Joshua seized the opportunity to lean down and kiss my forehead, whispering in my ear, "Wait for me to come back," just as it was when we first got married. In the moment I was lost in thought. Joshua had already left not long after he departed. A strange phone call came in. I pressed to answer. The voice on the other end was very familiar, was Selena. She asked me to meet her on my way there. I imagined countless scenarios of Selena's opening line, for instance. Like in a novel, she might boastfully declare he only loves me, or she might arrogantly demand that I step aside, but none of that occurred. Selena arrived earlier than I did, greeted me upon seeing me, and then recounted her story with Joshua. I have been with Joshua for 2 years, and he has always treated me well. In fact, I have always known his identity as a child. I was very jealous of him. He had a very happy family, and both of his parents loved him. My mother never cared about me until she met Joshua. He would sometimes come and bring me small gifts, but I know that this is only because he loves my mother. That was until I got together with Joshua. He takes care of people, worries about whether I eat well or sleep soundly, reassures me that everything is fine, that he is there, and helps me solve all my problems. He seems like a gift sent to me by heaven. After witnessing my neglect over the years, I also believed that I would be with him forever until his mother discovered the truth. She forced Joshua to leave me by threatening to commit suicide. Selena paused for a moment, her voice suddenly filled with agitation. He has given up on me. Her gaze turned to me, her voice suddenly becoming sorrowful. Could you please give him back to me? I beg you? I truly love him, I really do. Her tears fell, splattering onto the table. Ming Ming was weeping bitterly, yet she still carried the pride of the beloved. I remained silent. I touched my heart, but found it was not as painful as before. Why don't you talk to Joshua? Let him get a divorce, let him be with you. Selena was momentarily stunned, tears hanging on her eyelashes half fallen. I don't want to put him in a difficult position. I smiled, looking at her, my expression calm. Do you really love Joshua? Yes, I do, she answered decisively, but I laughed. Then tell me, what does Joshua like to eat the most? Selena was taken aback, her mouth opening and closing, yet no sound escaped her lips. If you truly love each other, why is one indecisive while the other remains completely unaware? Perhaps I laughed too freely? Selena felt somewhat embarrassed and quickly retracted her previously delicate expression. Sarah, if you must insist on this, don't blame me. He cannot let go of me. Selena is a woman of action. When work ended, Joshua returned home late. He still carried the peach scent that I had previously detected on Selena. I curled up on the sofa watching anime, while Joshua changed his shoes to come over and embrace me. I dodged to the side just as the scene played, where the female lead confessed to the male lead. He hesitated, and she questioned him about whether he truly loved her. I looked at Joshua, who had his eyes slightly lowered with only me reflected in them. It was just like when we were children, and he accompanied me to do my homework and watch anime. Joshua, I said seriously, I always believed that if I were to get married, it would have to be to someone I love. Joshua smiled, bending down to lift me off the sofa. He slightly tilted his head to look at me, his gaze sincere. Sarah, I have already married the person I love. I lowered my gaze. Lies Chapter 6. Selena has not vanished from my world. Even though Joshua was doing his utmost to maintain a facade of calm, she was still becoming increasingly outrageous. Joshua's phone rang in the middle of the night. I was groggily awakened by the noise when I opened my eyes. I saw Joshua hastily getting dressed. Noticing that I was awake, he looked apologetic. I'm sorry, Sarah, for waking you up. I have urgent business to attend to. You should go back to sleep. I nodded, lying in bed with my eyes open, watching him disappear from the room. The door downstairs slammed shut with a bang. All sense of sleepiness disappeared. In fact, I heard Selena's voice in a delicate and feeble manner. She cried out that someone was knocking on the door and window outside the room. I am so scared, Joshua. Will you come and keep me company? I am truly frightened to be alone, fearing that someone might, even children, know this. When in trouble you should call the police, yet she chose to seek someone else's husband. The weather forecast indicated that on the day of the first snow this year, I had originally planned to have dinner with Joshua. When I went to his company to find him at noon, he hesitated to speak. Joshua, today I have a friend returning from abroad. I haven't seen him in years. I might not be able to join you tonight. It's fine, Joshua smiled, but I could sense a feeling of relief on his face. Then I'll come to pick you up tonight. Where are you going? I provided an address. Joshua nodded. I was going to a restaurant in the city center square. The table was next to the floor-to-ceiling window, and someone was playing the piano in the hall. The music flowing like a stream. After not seeing each other for years, Misty and I were still not estrellas. The two of them chatted incessantly during dinner. In the evening, snow began to drift down from the sky. Flakes fell gently, one by one. Misty exclaimed with surprise to encounter the first snow right after returning to the country. I must be incredibly lucky. I smiled and gazed towards the square. The streets in the city center were bustling with pedestrians, with several couples strolling hand in hand amidst the swirling snowflakes. A girl boldly kissed her boyfriend. I watched, but suddenly found myself frozen in place. The heating in the restaurant was quite intense. I felt as though I had suddenly been placed in an ice cellar, my entire body stiffening. What's wrong? Misty followed my gaze. Upon seeing the couple kissing, her expression instantly shifted to understanding, and she smiled. I heard that couples who kiss on the day of the first snow will be happy for a lifetime. Sarah, are you missing your husband? It's thoughtful of you to keep me company at such a romantic time. I was lost in thought for a while. I watched as the intimate couple finally parted hand in hand, walking down the snow-covered street after a long pause. I finally spoke. That is, my husband Joshua sent me a message while I was on the plane. I only noticed it when I disembarked. My phone has many missed calls and unread messages. Calculating the time, it should be early morning back home. In fact, it used to be like this. He would become anxious if he couldn't reach me. I applied for this business trip on short notice. I submitted my application immediately after saying goodbye to Misty, so hastily that I packed my luggage. I won't be able to return for at least 10 days to 2 weeks, I replied to Joshua, informing him that I was on a business trip. He replied instantly, "That's good to hear. Please come back early." Selena is even faster than I expected. She sent a message almost the very next day. It is a selfie of her wrapped in a bath towel taken in front of a mirror. It is the bathroom at home. I quickly clicked save. She immediately retracted it. There is no need to do unnecessary work. I will not mention divorce. I suggest you go to Joshua and put in the effort. Chapter 7. By the time the project was completed, it had already been over half a month. My life rhythm gradually returned to what it was before. On the day I returned to the country, Joshua came to pick me up at the airport after more than 10 days apart. It felt as though there was a thick barrier between us. He did all the talking along the way. I merely responded in TLY. My eyes were glued to the phone screen as I replied to messages from my colleagues. "Sarah, have you been going through something recently?" Just as I was about to speak, his phone suddenly rang. It might have been accidentally switched to speakerphone. In that instant of connection, Selena's voice resonated clearly in the confined space of the car with a slight buzz from the alcohol. I called out Joshua's name in a sticky, slurred manner. "Joshua, I think I drank too much at the bar. Can you come pick me up? My head is spinning, my legs feel a bit weak, and someone keeps staring at me." When I looked up, I saw Joshua looking at me through the rearview mirror. His expression was tense. "Sorry, you go ahead." I interrupted his unspoken refusal, meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror. My expression remained calm. "Sarah, she is." Joshua was anxious to explain. "I know, she is the daughter of a friend." I opened the car door and stepped out. "I still need to return to the company." "You go pick her up." Joshua returned faster than I had anticipated. I had just finished moving everything from the master bedroom into the guest room. "Sarah, I'll be back right after I finish sending her off." "What is this?" I set down the last item in my hands before responding to him. "Let's sleep in separate rooms. I've been experiencing some insomnia lately. So let's sleep apart from now on. I've been increasingly busy with work, always returning home late. Joshua will wait for me. The lights at home remain on until I return." Upon seeing me enter the house, he asked, "Are you hungry? Would you like a late-night snack?" I shook my head. I walked straight past him and into the room. I didn't engage in any conversation with him either. I could feel Joshua's gaze on my back. I carried confusion and an inexplicable sense of grievance. However, I no longer wished to expend any energy thinking about him and Selena. This situation persisted until Joshua and I returned from the banquet. I walked through the crowd, linking my arm with his thanks to Joshua. I connected with several potential major clients when introducing me. Joshua said, "This is my partner." Others would also commend our compatibility. I simply leaned slightly on Joshua's shoulder, smiling shyly. "You two seem very affectionate together." I merely smiled the moment. The banquet concluded as I got into the car. I immediately let go of Joshua's hand. His expression reflected a moment of confusion, his arms still held. In the position I had wrapped around him, he stood frozen looking at me. Sarah, he fell silent again as he encountered my calm and indifferent expression. I rarely leaned against the window of the back seat. Why aren't you sitting in the passenger seat anymore? I rubbed my temples and provided a rather dismissive response. I don't want to sit. We remained silent all the way home. I changed my shoes and got ready to return to my room. Sarah, has your insomnia improved at all? I replied without turning my head, no. But suddenly someone grasped my hand. Joshua held on tightly, his fingertips, trembling with intensity. Sarah, can you please tell me what's going on? Why do we sleep in separate rooms as soon as you return? Why do you come home later and later? Why do you maintain intimacy outside, but refuse to speak to me at home? Why it feels like you no longer love me. Let go, I said calmly. Joshua released his grip. The area around my wrist was already red and swollen. I rubbed it, and the pain eased slightly. Do you have anything you wish to confess? I gazed into Joshua's eyes and retorted, what? I stared into his eyes for quite some time. For instance, kissing the person you love during the first snow will bring happiness for a lifetime. Joshua's face suddenly turned pale, and his back gradually hunched over. After a long moment, he finally spoke softly. Did you? Selected the most prominent position. It's difficult not to notice. I managed to smile, but it looked worse than crying. Joshua, that day when I was drunk, I told you I had liked you for 10 years. When you finally embraced me and declared your love, is it the same feeling as when you replied to someone in a post 2 years ago, saying you loved Selena? Is it the same? It's different. He spoke anxiously, eager to defend himself. I smiled faintly. I slammed the bedroom door shut. I no longer listened to him speak. I had long since stopped needing an answer. Joshua Chapter 8. I didn't bring up divorce with Joshua. He has been treating me increasingly well and clinging to me tightly. He makes breakfast before work, picks me up after work, buys me flowers, gets me my favorite foods and various high-quality end gifts that I adore. Colleagues at the company also tease, Sarah, your husband loves you so much. Do you have any secrets? I simply smiled occasionally when Selena's calls come in. He discreetly hangs up. Selena suddenly appeared one day. It was still that same cafe from last time. Her previous composure had completely vanished, and the provocative arrogance was nowhere to be seen. What did you do? Selena glared at me fiercely, gripping the cup so tightly that her knuckles turned white. I took a small sip of coffee and smiled at her. I didn't do anything. I was merely telling him how deeply I once loved him, and then I would immediately withdraw. Why get a divorce just to fulfill their desires? One yearns for what cannot be attained while the other cannot be salvaged. Isn't this a better outcome, Sarah? He doesn't love you. He loves me and only me. Selena lost her composure and shouted at me in anger. It was merely a reiteration, yet it lacked conviction. Is that so? I set down my coffee and stood up, then convened Joshua to divorce me. Can you accomplish that? Selena Joshua invited me out on a date for Valentine's Day. I agreed. But the location was set for a restaurant that day. When Joshua arrived, there was a fleeting stiffness in his expression, which he subtly masked. He placed a gift box on the table. I saw this last time, and it suits you perfectly, thank you. I opened the gift box to find a valuable pink diamond necklace inside. I apologize, I've been too busy lately to prepare a gift for you. It's fine. Joshua smiled, clearly attempting to charm. Having you with me today is the greatest gift. His words were drowned in the red wine that suddenly poured down. The white shirt was stained and the red liquid dripped from my hair onto the table as I opened the camera, aiming it at the person across from me. Selena smashed the wine glass in her hand onto the floor, shattering it into pieces. Her voice was sharp and mournful. You spent Valentine's Day with her. Why won't you reply to my messages? Have you really changed your heart? Have you truly have fallen in love with her? Joshua said nothing, stood up, and took the towel offered by the waiter to wipe the red wine from his face. People from all directions surrounded us with inquisitive eyes, yet I sat leisurely in my watching this farce unfold. I apologize. Joshua ignored her and looked at me. Sarah, there was a minor accident. The waiter beside us had already begun to block Selena. Please don't be angry, I will compensate you. Selena's gaze suddenly turned to me. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately messaged me, intentionally made me angry, and purposely made me come find you, only to embarrass me. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. She grabbed a wine bottle from the table and hurled it directly at me in the blink of an eye. Someone stepped in front of me. The dull thud of a heavy object striking flesh was shocking. I was cradled in Joshua's arms. I could hear his heartbeat growing louder, yet I remained expressionless. Selena was blocked there, her hands still poised to throw the bottle. Joshua turned around and swiftly slapped her hard. "I have not changed my feelings, Selena. She is my wife, you are not," the onlookers gasped, and I heard someone whispering, calling Selena crazy. How dare she dance in front of the rightful partner after being the mistress? Selena could only look at Joshua with a pale face, crying incessantly. The farce finally calmed down after Selena was asked to leave by the waiter. I had lost my appetite and Joshua looked equally disheveled, so I simply left Chapter 9 while waiting for the car at the door. Joshua spoke up to apologize to me. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I invited you out but ran into something distressing. If you have time, let's try again tomorrow." "I'm not free tomorrow," I interrupted him. The air suddenly seemed to grow thin. I moved the progress bar of the video slightly. When I looked up again, I noticed that Joshua was watching me. The dark stain on his white shirt remained. His hair fell down, and his beautiful almonds-aped eyes were half closed. The color of his eyes fluctuated like turbulent waves. It was also reminiscent of shattered light. I noticed a hint of red at the corner of his eye, yet voice trembled to the point of breaking. "Why aren't you angry? I have known Joshua for over 20 years. I have chased after him for over 10 years. He is eternally gentle, eternally calm, and eternally composed, as reliable as an elder brother." He stepped forward and grasped my wrist, yet he did not dare to apply any pressure. A shadow loomed over me, yet it resembled a glass tower on the brink of collapse. "She said that the address was sent to her by you, Sarah. Why aren't you angry? Do you blame me for this? You scold me, you hit me, you and I should have an argument. I will give you anything you desire, I beg you." He rested his head on my shoulder, and I could faintly feel the dampness there. "I beg you, Sarah, anything will do, as long as you don't abandon me." The late winter wind blew against my face, still carrying a hint of chill. I was enveloped by the scent of sandalwood emanating from Joshua. He held me too tightly, his scorching breath kept drilling into my collar, but I maintained this rigid posture like a wooden puppet. Joshua refused to let go. I knew he was waiting for me to speak, but I said nothing. The next day, Joshua acted as if nothing had happened, still getting up early to make breakfast for me. I was in a hurry and couldn't pay attention. After I arrived at the office, he ordered takeout for me again. When a colleague entered my office, she drooled a little and said, "Sarah, can you finish this breakfast?" I smiled and asked her, "Are you hungry? Would you like to eat something?" Her eyes lit up. "Thank you, Sarah." As she leaned closer, I caught a glimpse of the note on the takeout. On it, Joshua had written a reminder for me to eat well. Just as she was about to speak, I quickly tore the note off and threw it away. She immediately closed her mouth and quietly ate her food. Joshua came to pick me up again after work, as if I had no job. The car parked at the company entrance threw the envy of some colleagues for having found a good husband. I bid farewell to them one by one before opening the car door and getting into the back seat. Joshua handed me a bottle of Hot Rock candy pear. "I heard you in a bit yesterday, thank you." I took it and casually placed it by the car door. We'd both maintained a facade of calm, as if nothing had happened until we got home. When I got out of the car, Joshua didn't follow me. He only went upstairs after I reached the front door. I still held the thermos cup he had given me when I got into the car. I apologize. I accidentally left it by the side door and forgot about it. Joshua remained silent. He stood at the bottom of the steps, looking up at me. He stood in the shadow of the light, his face obscured, making it impossible to discern his expression. After a long pause, I finally heard him speak. "Sarah, you wouldn't mention divorce if you still cared about me, isn't that right?" I shifted my gaze away from his face. It fell into the void. "Wrong." I replied with a smile. "Why must you press for answers? Why must I explicitly tell you that I no longer love you? Adults are fully aware of the truth, yet maintain a facade of dignity. Why must it be torn away? The adult world is fraught with too many conflicting interests. My love for Joshua had already died the day I finished reading that post. Set love aside when comparing marriage and divorce. Which option would maximize my benefits? Ultimately, I concluded that as long as I am not attracted to anyone else, my marriage to Joshua would provide me with greater benefits. The connections and resources that Joshua can offer are my reasons for staying business. People pursue profit if love requires genuine feelings free from any ultra-ire motives. Then after love fades, all that remains for Joshua is mere calculation. I turned to Joshua and smiled. My gaze neither flinched nor avoided. I am simply making the most of what I have. Don't you understand, Joshua? Our marriage has long since been devoid of love. What remains is a calculated facade, a futile attempt to please that comes too late. It is a cold relationship sustained only by legalities. I thought he would be angry, that he would explode with rage, but he did not. It was as if he took a deep breath for a moment, forcefully swallowing all of his emotions. His voice was very soft, like a butterfly flapping its wings, so light that it seemed effortless to break. It's okay as long as you don't mention divorce. Not at this moment, I smiled faintly, unforgivingly, breaking the wings of the butterfly. When I meet someone else who makes my heart flutter, it may not be the same. No, you cannot. Joshua collapsed for a moment. You cannot do this, Sarah. I love you, cannot love someone else, Sarah. I have no interest in watching him lose his mind. He simply opened the door and walked in. Joshua, don't lose your mind. Chapter 10. Emotions are beyond control. It makes no sense to cling on after being hurt. My 10 years of secretly loving Joshua should not be taken lightly. But I know better than any one must love oneself before loving another. If I truly loved him to the point of losing all reason, I would not have unhesitatingly chosen my own future when going abroad. The path of love is fraught with challenges. Stumbling is inevitable, but I will always have the courage to love again and the resolve not to look back, because I will always love myself the most. Joshua called Sarah when he had a high fever. He dialed again and again, but all he received was a busy signal. Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently busy. He hung up and called again. Hung up and called. He just couldn't get through. In the end, he became delirious from the fever, and the phone fell to the floor. He didn't even know if the last call went through. When he woke up, he found himself in the hospital. Joshua stared at the white walls for a while, dazed. Suddenly someone beside him spoke. You're awake? It was Sarah. She reached out to check his forehead temperature and poured him a glass of water. Joshua experienced a moment of disorientation, thinking he was dreaming, until the cold touch pressed against his forehead. He wanted to speak, but his throat was sore. After taking the glass of water from Sarah and drinking it, he felt somewhat better. He hadn't seen the sight of Sarah in a long time. At home, the two of them felt like unfamiliar roommates. Even when Sarah was gentle towards him, he knew it was merely her lightness towards someone she didn't know well. Sarah, he hurriedly opened his mouth. He wanted to ask her if she had received his call. Did she send him to the hospital? Has she been keeping vigil by his bedside for a long time? Just as the words hung in the air, Sarah had already opened her mouth to ask him, Are you hungry? What would you like to eat? Pork rib soup. He did it intentionally. Once upon a time Sarah was ill. He would also prepare pork rib soup for her later. Sarah insisted on learning, saying that when he fell ill she could take good care of him. He couldn't refuse and taught her. He deliberately brought it up, hoping to evoke something. Sarah's hand on the screen did not pause. She nodded slightly. I have placed the order. It should arrive shortly. Joshua was momentarily taken aback. He was being unrealistic. He thought she would cook for him. Sarah stood up and said, If you need anything, just ring the bell by the bedside. The food will be here soon. Joshua looked at her somewhat dazed. Where are you going? I have a meeting this afternoon, so I must leave now. Sarah nodded slightly and walked towards the door. Joshua wanted to call out to her. The lingering heat from his high fever left his mind somewhat unclear. He suddenly grabbed Sarah's sleeve. Sarah turned back to look at him. Will you keep me company? He realized he had misspoken as Sarah's expression suddenly changed, yet she still maintained her composure. I'm sorry, that meeting is very important. What meeting could possibly be more important than a patient? He wanted to ask her. He wanted to say, You weren't like this before. He wanted to say, You clearly promised to take good care of me. He also wanted to say, You clearly said you love me. But he couldn't bring himself to say anything. The remnants of his rationality reminded him that the true culprit behind all this destruction was himself. He loosened his grip. I apologize, you go ahead. At first, Joshua thought that as long as they were not divorced, everything would be fine. As long as they were still a couple, he believed he still had time to win back Sarah. After all, she had loved him so deeply before. Later he realized he was mistaken. Sarah did not accept his gestures of goodwill in front of others. They still appeared to be a loving couple, but once the door was closed, they became nothing more than polite roommates. The breakfast Joshua made for Sarah was never eaten, and the gifts he sent her occasionally received a response, but they felt randomly chosen. Lacking any sincerity, he thought it didn't matter. He would eventually win over Sarah. However, the more kindness he showed her, the colder she became. The most painful moments for Joshua were when he returned from the banquet or from his parents' house. because the disparity during those times was the greatest. The person who had just been smiling suddenly released his hand, leaving only the warmth that had not yet dissipated from his arm. He had indeed argued before breakdowns were never in short supply. He allowed Sarah to scold him. He held Sarah's hand to slap his own face, his eyes red as he pleaded with Sarah to blame him. But Sarah remained silent, withdrawing her hand from his. He sighed softly and said, "Please stop making a scene." His gaze was calm. He appeared to be a criminal with nowhere to hide from start to finish. It was he who had been unreasonable. It was only at that moment that he realized regret and pain were futile. Sarah would not turn back, so later he still thought, as long as Sarah doesn't get a divorce, everything will be fine, even if she was merely using him, even if she was just plotting against him, even if there were no feelings involved. It didn't matter as long as she was willing to stay by his side, as long as she remained his nominal wife. That's good. However, that statement hung over Joshua's head like the sword of Damocles, did not know when that sword would fall, and he was constantly gripped by the fear of its impending descent. What he found most unbearable was that she had fallen in love with someone else. Joshua stayed in the hospital for 2 days. The following day Sarah did not come. Not even when he returned home was there any sign of her. He messaged Sarah, and after several hours, he received a reply stating that she was on a business trip. Their last conversation had taken place half a month ago. Joshua asked her if she was free. A friend had given him 2 tickets to a musical. "I don't enjoy watching musicals, I apologize." Joshua stared at this message for a long time. In fact, she used to accompany him to watch them. When they returned, they walked together with Sarah, linking her arm with his, their steps light. Joshua looked at her and smiled. "Today is such a happy day. What brought me joy wasn't the musical, it was simply that they were together." Joshua spent a long time typing and deleting in the chat box before finally sending a message. "I have been discharged from the hospital." After a moment of thought, he retracted it and changed it to "wishing you safe travels." There was no response from the other side. Joshua sighed and set his phone down. The city in the evening is lively, with lights from every home already illuminated. Those who have finished work have returned home, and the aroma of food wafting from all around. There are also the sounds of laughter and joy shared with family. Joshua did not turn on the lights. Sitting alone in the darkness, he suddenly felt that the house was very empty. He had never felt this way before. Sarah enjoys curling up on the sofa to watch anime when she is not busy. It seems to be a habit she developed while staying at his house after returning from abroad. He once felt that Sarah seemed to have matured, making her feel somewhat unfamiliar to him. Later, he realized that she actually hadn't changed at all. He still loves watching anime and calls him Joshua brother. He laughs heartily when happy and can be easily comforted when he is sad. In fact, Joshua is very happy. Sarah is highly competent and skilled at her job. Everyone praises her for her independence, but only he knows the truth. His little girl can also be spoiled. She watches the anime that children adore, crying and laughing for the characters within. Only he knows this. He once felt an overwhelming sense of secret joy. Only he is aware of the sight of Sarah. The evening Sarah returned from her business trip was a memorable one. She did not inform him of her return time. It was Joshua who encountered it downstairs by himself. He saw Sarah standing face to face with a man. The two were engaged in conversation. Sarah had a smile in her eyes, a liveliness he hadn't seen in a long time. The man, with his eyes slightly downcast and appearing aloof, revealed a hint to tenderness when facing Sarah. They stood together, clearly not close and distant, yet exuding a harmony that outsiders could not penetrate. Joshua suddenly felt a surge of anger, a wave of bitterness, the source of which he could not identify, filled his chest and even made him want to rush over and throw a punch at the man's face. But that would make Sarah angry. He wanted to walk over, put his arm around her shoulders and assert his, thanking her for bringing his wife back. Yet his feet were frozen in place, unable to move an inch. But aside from anger, panic surged even stronger. The sword of Damocles hung precariously above. Could it be him? That person, could it be him? Sarah said goodbye and had already turned to walk this way? Joshua's body reacted before his mind, and he turned to head home. At the moment Sarah opened the door, his face was pale, and he forced a smile at her. He chose to escape while Sarah was taking a shower. He went to check Sarah's chat records. He knew he was, but he felt power. He simply couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept that Sarah had fallen in love with someone else. Sarah's password was still the same gesture password from before. She hadn't changed it, so he easily unlocked it. The pinned contact on WeChat was his friend Eva. He clicked in and took a quick glance. "Eva, you should hurry up and get a divorce. I'm begging you. Just looking at your husband makes me want to stab him twice." Sarah responded with a dog emoji. "What type do you prefer? I can introduce you. Senior Law is quite impressive as well. Someone has been interested in you for quite some time." Sarah still returns to the dog head expression. Hit you JPG. Joshua's step back and finds Senior Law's as we chat. Sarah's note is very simple, just Senior Law. I can't discern any private feelings. Clicking in reveals Sarah's recent message. "Could you please take me back? Thank you, Senior Law." Also noted the sound of running water in the bathroom. Joshua frantically scrolls through the chat history. The two of them have been chatting frequently lately. Most of their conversations are work-related, occasionally interspersed with some casual concern. Both of them respect that boundary. No one has crossed it in a moment of days. Senior Law's new message has already popped up. "I managed to get 2 tickets for the Your Name exhibition. Joshua also knows about Your Name. It is Sarah's favorite anime." Joshua has almost anticipated what he is going to say next. Driven by anger, he even considered telling him directly that it was not possible, but the message from the other side has popped up. "It is not we are together, but rather you can go out and have fun with friends." Joshua stood frozen in place. He would prefer that they were discussing some ambiguous phrases. He would rather it be Senior Law who, knowing she is married, desperately crosses boundaries to invite her. He would prefer that she retaliate by being unfaithful in the same manner. That way they would each have strayed once, and it would be even. He does not pursue her faults as long as they can return to the past, but the more it is like this, the more his baseness is revealed, the more they adhere to propriety, the more he feels his own Uganda look. He is the only one who has done something wrong. He is the only despicable one. Sarah may have noticed him looking at her phone, but she did not confront him. Joshua felt anxious every day. He only felt that the fear of losing her was growing stronger, yet he was powerless to stop it, no matter how good he was. To Sarah, it was like a cow sinking into the sea, receiving not a shred of response. Chapter 11. Sarah filed for divorce on a sunny afternoon. She came with the divorce agreement sitting across from him, looking at him with a calm smile. "Let's get a divorce." It has fallen in that moment. The sword hanging above his head swiftly descended, cleaving him in two from top to bottom. The heart and the left half beat slower and slower, flesh and blood spilled everywhere. He seemed to truly confront palpitations and death. Breathing became increasingly difficult. "Is it him?" It took him a long time to regain his voice. He felt it was sharp, and unlike his usual tone, "Who Senior Law, you have fallen in love with him, is that so?" Sarah was startled for a moment, then reacted and shook her head. "I haven't fallen in love with him. I just want to give it a chance." Sarah smiled faintly. "Give yourself a chance and give him a chance as well." After all, she looked at him, her smile deepening. Before starting a new relationship, one must sort out everything from the previous one. Don't you think? Joshua seemed to be choked by something. He wanted to tear the divorce, written in black and white, into pieces, but after a long while he simply said, "I understand. I will sign the divorce agreement after I finish reading it." Sarah was momentarily taken aback. Then she smiled, genuinely happy. She said, "I will wait for you." He wanted to ensnare her, yet he feared that she would grow tired of him. "Then let it be this way. At least in the end, let there be a somewhat decent conclusion." Joshua revised the divorce agreement, allocating most of the assets to Sarah. She also called to ask its compensation. The person on the other end of the line chuckled, but remained silent. He was deceiving her, merely hoped that when they parted he could leave her with a good impression. Even though their relationship had already deteriorated significantly on the day she obtained the divorce certificate, Sarah came alone and left alone. When Joshua stood at the door, he asked, "Shall I give you a ride?" Sarah shook her head and calmly replied, "I'll walk. Ava is waiting for me." Joshua stood at the door, watching her silhouette gradually fade away, slowly disappearing from sight. Clearly a beautiful day, yet he felt particularly terrible. Especially terrible. He had actually wanted to ask her if she had ever blamed him, but there was really no need to ask because she wouldn't care. Perhaps she has never been troubled by these trivial matters. Just like that year when he brought fruit to Sarah's home, however, he overheard her mother asking her, "Have you made your decision? Are you really going abroad? What about the person you love? Can you bear to part with him?" Sarah let out a laugh, her voice still carrying the sweet, crisp tone of her youth mom. "Except for matters concerning my parents, the future has never been a multiple-choice question for me." She has always been so resolute.